So as we know, Krishna comes to this material world once in the day of Brahma. And the reason he comes is described in Srimad Bhagavad Gita as Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that I come here for primary three reasons. Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect my devotees, to give protection to the saintly persons. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. The second purpose is to annihilate the miscreants. Third one is dharma samsthapanarthaya. Third one is to establish or to re-establish the religious principles. And then later on in the next verse he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam surjamiham. So Krishna is saying that whenever the religious principles, in the world, they decline, then I come myself in order to re-establish the religious principles. So that's like the primary objective of Krishna's appearance. But Krishna comes only once in a day of Brahma. And all the other times, Krishna sends his very close associates to this material world in order to give teachings and instructions and to again re-establish the principles of dharma. So why, Krishna has to send so many of his representatives? Because in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said that this world, the material world, is designed in such a way that the mentality of humans, naturally goes down. The religious principles given, they decline naturally. Kalau janishamananam dukkha shoka tamonudam. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami is explaining that especially in the age of Kali, the characteristics, there are three primary characteristics of people in the age of Kali. They are dukkha, they are dukkhi, all the time they are in sorrow. They are always complaining about some things. Dukkha, shoka, they are lamenting all the time about something. Always lamentation is a characteristic. And third characteristic of the people of Kali Yuga is tamonudam. Tama means darkness. They are in ignorance. They are in the darkness of ignorance. And because of this quality of tama, the religious principles, they always decline. So Krishna always sends his representatives in this material world. So when we see Srila Prabhupada's life, he is very close associate of Krishna. He is very dear to Krishna. He is Nitya Siddha devotee who is eternally liberated personality, who came from Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's own kingdom, Krishna's own abode. Srila Prabhupada was, asked by Krishna to go and re-establish the principles of dharma. So this is how a great personality comes from Vaikuntha, planets. They come to this world to glorify Krishna and to give humanity a direction in order to again go back on the path of religion, on the path of yoga, again connect with God. So that's the primary purpose of the advent of Krishna or Krishna's dear associates. So Srila Prabhupada was born on September 1st, 1896. And he was born to devotee parents. His parents were pure devotees, Vaishnavas. His father, Gaur Mohan Dey, he was a priest. And as a small child, Srila Prabhupada used to always hear the bell of the sound of the bell ringing. When Prabhupada was asked, how was your life when you were a child? So Prabhupada used to say that my father was a pure devotee and he raised me as a perfect Vaishnava. And we see that Prabhupada, when he was just a small child, that time he used to always hear his father worshipping the deities of Radha Krishna. And he used to always hear different verses from Shastras. And his father gave Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan was the name given to Srila Prabhupada by his father. So his father gave him the deities of little Radha and Krishna to worship. And when Prabhupada was 5 years, that time his father gave him the carts for Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra. And that time, little Abhay Charan, with his friends, they celebrated Rath Yatra. That was the first Rath Yatra in Prabhupada's life. So Prabhupada went to the Scottish Church College. And when he was, studying, and at that time India was being ruled by Britishers. So Prabhupada was very much influenced by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi that time was very prominent freedom fighter in India. And Prabhupada, as a young man, he was too much influenced by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. That time, one of the friends of Abhay Charan, Prabhupada, he brought Prabhupada to see one spiritual personality. He said, you have to meet this person. He is amazing. He is such a great, effulgent person. You must meet him. Prabhupada was a bit reluctant in the beginning, because he was thinking that first objective of an Indian is to first, achieve freedom, and then only we can think about anything else. But this friend of Prabhupada brought him to meet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that was the first meeting of Srila Prabhupada with his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That was in 1922. And the first very meeting, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw Prabhupada, and he said that you young men of India, you are learned, you should preach the message of Krishna in English language. You have to preach these teachings. That is the real culture, the culture of India. The message of Bhagavad Gita, message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has to be preached in English language. That was the first instruction in the first meeting that was given to Srila Prabhupada. So, later on we see Prabhupada was so much influenced by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his teachings. Prabhupada started to associate with all the Vaishnavas, all the devotees from Gaudiya Math, which was the organization established by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that time Prabhupada was already married. And Prabhupada, accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master. And he wanted to only serve his spiritual master. And he started to think that now I'm married. If I would not have been married, I would have given my complete life. I would have dedicated myself completely in the service of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we see that when Prabhupada was associating with Gaudiya Math Vaishnavas, Prabhupada also wanted to take formal initiation from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in Allahabad, 1933, Prabhupada accepted formal initiation from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we see that, Prabhupada was grihastha, he was a householder. And still Prabhupada thought, I will completely dedicate myself. Being a householder or being brahmachari or being sannyasi is not really, required. That these designations are not necessary in the service of Krishna. So Prabhupada thought that I'll dedicate my life in the service of Krishna. And we see he was a perfect householder. So as a householder, Prabhupada used to arrange different house programs. And he used to invite all his friends. He used to invite all the people in general. And he used to organize different varieties of programs. And especially he used to bring renounced sannyasis or brahmacharis from Gaudiya Mutt, and he used to ask them to speak, and Prabhupada used to play mridanga, or Prabhupada liked to sometimes also give talks, but most of the times he used to bring and he used to ask other people to speak, and Prabhupada used to silently sit in the audience and listen. So he used to bring many times Govinda Brahmachari, who was disciple of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And he used to ask him that you are Brahmachari, so you sit on the Vyasasana and you speak. And sometimes he used to say that, but I'm not trained, like I'm not very advanced. You should speak. But Prabhupada used to say, no, you start. You recite a verse and you start speaking, and I will also join you. I will also speak. So this Govinda Brahmachari used to read a verse and start speaking, and Prabhupada, used to elaborate, sitting in the audience, and the audience used to be awestruck, hearing from Srila Prabhupada, understanding the depth of the spiritual knowledge that, Abhay Babu had. So Prabhupada was fondly called as Abhay Babu in those days. So like it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that the renounced order of life, the sannyasis or even brahmacharis, those who have completely dedicated their life, they are considered as the roots of the tree of the society. So they are considered as roots. They are very important. And the grihastha devotees, the householders, are considered as the trunk of the tree. And all the different varieties of people in general, they are considered as the branches and leaves of the society. So the duty of a householder devotee is to act as an interface between the roots and the branches. The roots, which are the renounced order of life, the devotees who are sannyasis, who are in renounced order, and the branches and the leaves, they are like the people in general. So the householder should be like an interface. They should connect the people in the renounced order to the people in general. So this is how Prabhupada set the perfect example of how a householder devotee should behave. So we see that even in those days, Prabhupada, despite being grihastha, and he had children, he had to take care of his family, he had his own business to maintain his family, and despite all these duties to perform, Prabhupada always used to preach, because that is the mission. The mission of a pure devotee in coming to this material world is to preach the glories of Krishna, is to awaken the sleeping souls, the eternally conditioned living entities, to wake them up and give them the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, to revive their Krishna consciousness and bring them back home, the eternal home, that is the kingdom of God, kingdom of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan or Vaikuntha. So we see Prabhupada used to always preach, and in the mind he was thinking that my spiritual master gave me this order that I have to preach this message in English. So how can I do this? So one time Prabhupada wrote a letter to his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that, my dear Guru Maharaj, you have so many wonderful disciples. You have so many sannyasi disciples, so many brahmacharis. They are always assisting you in your mission. They are always there with you. They are getting your personal association 24/7. And I am a householder. I have so many duties to perform. How can I serve you the best? What is the perfect way I can serve you? So in response to that letter, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote to Abhay Charan, Prabhupada, that you should preach this message of Bhagavad Gita and the message of Lord Gauranga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western world. By this, you will be benefited and they will be benefited. So this is, mutual benefit. You should preach this message of Krishna, in the Western world. So that was the second time his spiritual master gave, clear and distinct instruction that you should preach this message in the Western world and in the English language, to the English speaking community. And Prabhupada, when he received the letter, it is, described very nicely in Prabhupada Lilamrit, how, he was contemplating that, how can I do this? It appears as an impossible task. How can this message of Krishna, how can these teachings of Bhagavad Gita be understood by Western people who are completely engrossed in sense enjoyment? How will I preach to them the message that you should not have illicit sex, you should not eat meat, no gambling, no intoxication, because these people cannot live for even one day without intoxication, without gambling, without breaking these four principles. Not a single day can they live. How will they understand this message? So Srila Prabhupada started to, write, translate, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and all the ancient texts of Vedic India. So all these ancient texts, Prabhupada started to translate. And we see in 1944, February 14th, Srila Prabhupada started the first Back to Godhead. So Prabhupada started to write in English the message of Bhagavad Gita, so, in an understandable manner for the common people. But still Prabhupada was thinking that how can I go and preach to the Western world? It appears as an impossible task, even though I'm trying to do my bit, even though I'm trying my best, but still it appears very impossible. And we see that Prabhupada's Grihastha life, as a householder Prabhupada, his life was not very perfect. Like he was, expecting his wife to always assist him in the preaching mission. But his wife was not very favorable. She did not really like that Prabhupada was arranging so many programs and devoting so much time. And all the programs that Prabhupada used to arrange, his wife did not attend. So even, when Prabhupada used to chant, his wife would ask Prabhupada to step outside and chant. She did not want Prabhupada to chant inside the house. And Prabhupada, humbly, he used to chant in the veranda of his apartment. And one time, when Prabhupada was chanting his rounds, that time, on the first floor, there was one of his god brother called Daula Govinda Shastri, who was also disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Prabhupada, when he was chanting, he saw that, many people came out from the upper floor and they left. And Prabhupada asked them what was happening there. So Prabhupada came to know that Daul Govind Shastri gave a seminar on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his instructions. So when Daul Govinda Shastri came out, he said that I just gave a seminar on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, पृथ्वीते आचे जत नगरादि ग्राम सर्वत्र प्रचार हैब मोर नाम. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that on every town and in every village on this earth, my name will be preached, my name will be chanted. And even Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that in Mayapur, people from all over the world and from different continents of the earth, they will come and chant the names of Lord Gauranga. So Daula Govinda Shastri said that I just gave that seminar that this will happen, that one day the names of Lord Chaitanya, the names of Lord Krishna will be chanted all over the world, in every nook and corner of the world, in every town and village. But I don't know how it will happen. So that time Prabhupada said that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said it, it has to happen. If Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said it, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if he has predicted that, then it must happen. To that, Daul Govinda Shastri said, but who will do that? That time Prabhupada said that a fool who has completely surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he will do it. So Prabhupada had complete conviction that this will happen one day and we can do it if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said. So Prabhupada had complete faith in the words of the scriptures and the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada, we see in his householder life, he was constantly meditating that I have been instructed not just once but 2 times by my spiritual master that I have to preach in the Western world and I have to preach in English. How can that happen? So Prabhupada, when he was constantly meditating, one day he had a dream. And in the dream, he saw a very effulgent personality. And he could immediately recognize that personality as his own spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because by this time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had already left his body and gone back to the spiritual world. But in the dream, Prabhupada saw that that personality was tall and that personality was wearing glasses. And he raised his arm and said that now is the time that you should take sannyas and you should completely depend on Krishna and you should preach this message in the Western world. So when Prabhupada woke up in the morning, he was thinking that now this is the 3rd time I have been instructed, and he could recognize that this is my spiritual master instructing me in my dream. So Prabhupada, in a few days, he took Vanaprastha. So in 1951, Prabhupada took Vanaprastha. And there were some incidents, like his wife, one time she sold some of the Prabhupada's translations. She sold it in order to buy tea powder, because she was accustomed to drinking tea. So that time Prabhupada asked, now you have to decide. Prabhupada asked his wife, whose name was Radharani, Prabhupada asked that now you have to decide whether you want me to live in this house or do you want tea. So that time she sternly said that I want tea. So Prabhupada, Prabhupada packed his all the luggage, and he took Vanaprastha. So we see that these are just pastimes. There are different people who are playing their own parts in the pastimes of such exalted devotee. So because Prabhupada's wife behaved in that way, Prabhupada took Vanaprastha, and then later he took sannyas, and then he preached, and then because of that we are here, we are devotees. So we see that Prabhupada took Vanaprastha, and he left his house, and he first went to one of his godbrothers, Bhakti Tirtha Vilas Goswami, who was in Chaitanya Math in Kolkata, who was the in charge, uh, who was the main person in Chaitanya Math. So as we know that after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, all the different maths of Gaudiya, all the Gaudiya math, they become separated. So everyone had their own matha. So different sannyasis, they acquired their own matha. So in Kolkata there was Chaitanya Math, where there was Bhakti Tirtha Vilas Maharaj. Prabhupada went there and he told him that I had such a wonderful dream where our spiritual master, he instructed me personally that I should preach and I should take sannyas, and I want to preach in the Western world. So to that, Bhakti Tirtha Vilas Maharaj, he said that you first join the temple, you first join the math, you spend a few years here, and then you will be given an opportunity. So Prabhupada said that I want to write some books for people in general. People in general cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or like Bhagavatam or even the literature of Goswamis. But that time Chaitanya Math, they were producing literatures of the Goswamis, and they did not have any plan to write any books for the people in general. And then Prabhupada asked, at least can you give me a chance to go in the Western world and preach? To that he said, no, right now it's not really needed, because in the Western world nobody chants. Even some of our god brothers went there, but they could not make many devotees. Some of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they went in England to preach, but after so much of effort, after so many years, they could not really preach so much. So that was not so much successful. So he said it's not really needed. So Prabhupada felt a bit discouraged. Then he came to Mathura. In Mathura, there was Keshavji Maharaj, Keshav Math. There was, Keshav Bhakti Pradhan Keshav Maharaj Math. And he told, Prabhupada told him the same thing, that I had such a wonderful dream, and what should I do? That time, Bhakti Pradhan Keshav Maharaj said that, see, I have been telling you all these years that you should take sannyas. You are such a great preacher. We need you. We want, such a great preacher. And even in the previous days, when Prabhupada used to, give classes about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, some of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and they said that this Abhaycharan, he is so well versed. He is such a, he speaks so wonderful and straightforward and simple, in a simple language, very easy to understand, that we should give him sannyas. Some of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went to him and told him that maybe you should give him sannyas. That time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, just leave him alone. He knows what he is doing, leave him alone. One day he will do everything himself. One day he will establish. You don't know who he is, but one day he will show to the world who he is. So, this incident happened many years back, and Bhakti Pradhan Keshav Maharaj told Prabhupada that, see, I have been telling you that you should take sannyas. So, um, in September 17, 1959, Prabhupada was given sannyas by Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj. And um there was one more god brother of Prabhupada, Sanatan Prabhu, he also got sannyas. So after sannyas, Prabhupada did not stop. He continuously preached, everywhere in India. He started his mission. And then with so much effort, Prabhupada came to the Western world. He came and he started to live in New York. And in the beginning, after the first year of ISKCON, the first year of Prabhupada's stay in America, it was very hard because Prabhupada did not see, he had not seen snow. And New York, as we know, it gets so cold in winter time. So Prabhupada had so many difficulties while he was preaching. But still, with so much of effort, Prabhupada had one person who was staying with him, whose name was David. And Prabhupada had a plan to make him a great devotee. But this David, he had started to chant, but he again fell down. He again started to associate his previous materialistic friends, drug addicts, and he again became a drug addict. And one day he attacked Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada had to gather, he had to take all his luggage and he had to leave that place immediately. And it is described that it was morning time and Prabhupada did not know, where he should go. He had no place to go. But Prabhupada used to give classes. He used to give lectures on Bhagavad Gita, and he knew a few young people from those discourses. So Prabhupada knew a couple of his students. So in the morning at 5 o'clock, Prabhupada called one of his students, whose name was Mike. He called him and told that, this David, he attacked me, and now I have nowhere to go. So Mike, took Prabhupada in his apartment, and Prabhupada stayed there for a week or so, and then Mike also arranged for some accommodation of Prabhupada. And then we see that then they got this matchless gift store in New York. And Prabhupada's students at that time, they said that, Swamiji, this place is wonderful. It says matchless gifts. And would you like such a store? But the only problem is, it is in the city and it is too much noisy and so much of crowd. And should we look for some other place, or should we look for something in the city, or should we look for something away from the city? Because you are a sannyasi, you may want to just be by yourself and chant and But Prabhupada said, no. I want the place in the crowd, because our mission is to preach. So Prabhupada took that store which said matchless gifts, and Prabhupada kept the name as it is, because Prabhupada said that what we are distributing to the world, this message of Krishna consciousness, is matchless gift to the humanity. So Prabhupada used to stay there and he used to give classes, and he had many students. But he saw that many times people were walking on the street. They used to just see through the glass, but they did not come inside, because as the Western culture, like, people have to be invited. So Prabhupada thought that people are just looking and passing by, but they are not coming inside. So Prabhupada said that today we will go outside. So Prabhupada took all his students and everyone went outside and they went to the central park and they started chanting. And Prabhupada closed his eyes and he started chanting of this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And everyone started to chant because in that park there were so many people and they got attracted by this music and this playing of mridanga and kartal, and people started to chant. People started to chant and jump and dance in the kirtan. And Prabhupada liked it so much that this kirtan is being accepted in the Western world with full enthusiasm. So Prabhupada loved that thing. And then Prabhupada brought everyone inside. The kirtan party came to the matchless store, and following that kirtan party, all the people in general, they also came. And then Prabhupada gave a talk. And this way, we see that this mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been spread. So this mission that started in that small room, it has spread so much. Later on, we see that these people became sannyasis. Like there was Howard who became Hayagriv Maharaj, and there was Valley who became Umapati Maharaj. So these all people became later on leaders, and Mike became Mukund Maharaj. So then later on, Shyam Sundar Prabhu wanted to preach this mission and wanted to do something great for Prabhupada, and he thought that we should capture the influential persons, because in Bhagavad Gita it is said that whatever great persons do, the people in general follow. So he thought that who are those personalities that we can capture, that we can make devotees, so that this message will be spread fast. So he thought those days Beatles, George Harrison and the Beatles band, they were so influential. And practically all of the Europe and America, they were, wherever they went, they attracted so much crowd. So Shyam Sundar Prabhu and all the devotees, they went to England, and they somehow they started to attract these Beatles, and they came in contact with the devotees, and that's how they also became devotees. And then later on, we know George Harrison wrote so many songs about Krishna, and he became very dear to Prabhupada. He served Srila Prabhupada so much. So we see, and then later we see that Prabhupada got all his disciples back to India, because Prabhupada was, in early days, Prabhupada used to think that Indian culture, this Vedic culture, is so great, but all the Indians, they are following Western countries blindly. Prabhupada, when he used to travel in the train as a young man in India, he saw that the young people do not have respect for elders. They are smoking cigarette in the train, and they are blowing the smoke, on the old people. They have no respect. He saw so many women, they are traveling alone. They have become independent, which is not according to Vedic culture. So Prabhupada was thinking that India is blindly following West, and Western countries already have so many problems, and India will also end up in the same way. Prabhupada said that it is like a blind man running towards ocean. If a blind man is running towards the ocean, he will soon be drowned and he will die. So the important thing is we have to change the direction. So Prabhupada said, like that blind man who is running towards ocean, India is following the Western countries. So when Prabhupada, he acquired so many disciples, and his mission was being spread by those wonderful uh, Western disciples of Prabhupada. He brought all the disciples back to India to show to the Indian people that you already have such wonderful culture which you do not appreciate, but now Western people are appreciating it. So in that way, you should also start to appreciate. So Prabhupada brought all those disciples, and he preached in India. And then there are so many temples in India now. There are so many temples all over the world. So, Prabhupada, when he left this world, that time he had circumambulated this entire earth 14 times. And he had more than 108 temples all over the world. So this is how the mission, succeeded. Prabhupada, when he was coming to the Western countries, the first time when he was on Jaladuta, when he was coming to New York, he wrote down that I do not know whether these people will ever understand my words. Because for these people who are completely engrossed in sense enjoyment and in material life, how will they understand these words? So he wrote down poems. He was praying to Krishna that please make me an instrument in this mission, of Lord Chaitanya. It is your mission, Krishna, that, please make me an instrument and make me dance as you wish. Please make me dance. So he wrote down, नाचाओ नाचाओ प्रभु नाचाओ से मते काष्ठेर पुतली जता नाचाओ से मते. Please make me dance, oh my Lord, please make me dance the way you want. Please make me dance. So that was Prabhupada's mood. He always considered himself a servant of his own spiritual master. In the same poem, in another poem, Krishna Taba Punya Habe Bhai, Srila Prabhupada writes that Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Shachi Sutta Priyati Krishna Seve Jar Tulanai. My spiritual master is so great that there is no one, can be compared to him. He is such a great servant of Shachi Sutta. He is very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by his mercy, a person can conquer the entire world. Tahale anand hoy, tab hoy digvijay. Chaitanyera kripa atishay. Srila Prabhupada wrote down in his poems that when my spiritual master will be completely satisfied, when he will be pleased, then I can do digvijay. I can conquer the entire world. And that's what you see that, when Prabhupada came, he did not even have any money. He had only 40 rupees, which is around $7. But when he left, he had millions of dollars, millions of, So for pure devotees, we see Krishna gives unlimited. For pure devotees, Krishna gives all the opulence. And when we please the spiritual master, so like Prabhupada wrote down that when the spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna is pleased. And that is what we see in Prabhupada's own example, that he completely satisfied the desire of his spiritual master. And then he could conquer the entire world. So Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.